first off, just that topic to talk about is just getting used to characters. So you are right now, I imagine, just exploring through the different characters, seeing what characters you want. Though my recommendation would be that once you start to figure out like what characters do, and you start to like a couple different characters, is to kind of narrow your hero pool a little bit. So what
Hmm.
characters you're playing. Now this is just a recommendation. So out of everything I say today, this is the most up to you thing, and it really depends on what your goals are. If
Okay.
your goal is just to have fun and just to play the game and you have fun playing a bunch of different characters and play as many characters as you want, play across as many roles as you want. But if your goal is to improve or to learn or to get better and to win games, then you might find a lot more of a benefit out of narrowing your hero pool. So my
Okay.
recommendation would be one role instead of splitting yourself up between all the different roles because every role plays differently. And then also mainly 2 to 3 characters. It's not that you have to hard lock into those characters, but it's more so that you prefer them and then you can swap to other characters if the situation needs it, right? But
Okay.
that's just a recommendation. Take it or leave it. And then, of course, at the moment, I completely understand you just play as many characters as you want to, and while you're getting used to how they work and to see which ones you want to play. All right.
Okay.
All right. So then, yep, just hop into a game or into a queue, and then while you're in queue, we can I can ask a couple other questions here.
Okay. Just a classic 66.
Yep. I mean, unless you had another mode that you preferred.
No, I'm just I know that the regular quick play forces people to queue,
Roles.
yeah, roles, but um like I don't know if would you prefer that or would you prefer to see me
It's
play
up to you.
various?
I mean, so I personally, if you're asking like what I play, that's not the question you're asking, but like I personally prefer to play in the 6v6 roll queue because it is a better playing environment, especially when you're getting into a competitive environment. It's a
Okay.
whole lot more fun to play the game when you're not running 6 DPS in Quick Play Classic. So
Okay.
it's just that's up to you, though I would probably recommend it as a game mode to stick with roll queue, and then if you're ever trying to climb places that again like it's the open queue is less competitive, it's less people play it, people I don't know like if you're looking for respect from people offer more respect to people who climb higher in roll queue than those in open queue, which is the
Okay.
other one. So I'm spectating your game now. So yeah, you're pretty new to the game, yeah. So when did you
Now
start
entering the
playing?
Temple of Anubis.
I built well, I played a bit on Xbox,
Okay.
but because none of my friends on Xbox really um like got into it, it was kind of tough. But then I switched to PC maybe 6 months ago, and I have a couple PC friends who really play this game a lot.
Okay.
Um, I mainly play Siege, but because I have no one to play Siege with here now, I started to play a bit with them. So I only have roughly like 12 hours
Okay.
on this game so far, but yeah.
All right. And then, do you expect to play the game a lot more?
Yeah.
All right. And then,
So
final
let's
question
focus
is
on the
just: do you have any
future, hmm?
questions for me before we begin?
Um, kind of, I think for me, kind of map knowledge,
Four,
and
three,
positioning, I
two,
guess, for
one.
different heroes.
Yeah, so positioning will be something we'll go over now. Map knowledge is going to be more so something that you'll learn as you keep playing, right? As you just kind of go through the maps, you'll start to learn, okay, this is where this thing
Reset
is,
thermal
right?
activation.
It's not something I'll probably say coaching is super useful for, but definitely positioning is something we can review. But yeah, just if you have questions about anything at any point, because I know you'll probably have a lot of questions, just because you don't
Yeah.
know what the heck is anything is,
That's as
just
good as
feel
new.
free, feel free to ask. All right, so I'll just be a minute or so. I'm looking for something to talk about now, and
Okay.
start listing things off as I see them. Just expect there to be a lot since you're new.
Yeah, fair enough.
Oh, you hear that?
All right. So make sure you're trying to kind of follow your team around, and as they're pushing in, make sure you're going in with them. There we had
Okay.
we had some people going in, but we were kind of sitting really far back. Also keep in mind that you do have, if you hold your crouch down, you do have a super leap, so that will allow you to jump really high up in the air, and then you can use that to maybe get up to higher ground, so you don't have to like run all the way around to the left side.
Okay.
You having trouble keeping up?
Right. Big thing is just make sure you're trying to put as many teammates in your line of sight as possible, so you can see as many teammates as possible. Whereas a lot of times when we were sitting on that left side, we can't really see very many people, right? Because we're support, we're a healer, we want to be able to actually heal people. Okay. Right now, that was Lucio's beat, so the big green thing that he just used, that gave like everyone 1,000 health, basically, which
Okay.
means that while that's active, you probably don't need to be healing, right? So you can just look to go in, unless somebody's like critical underneath it, you can just go ahead and keep shooting and healing, or sorry, not healing, keep shooting and just go for damage instead. And just as a general rule for the character of Baptiste is, anytime healing isn't needed, go for damage, like look to do something else.
Okay.
Regen burst activated.
Okay. If you can, try to play closer to people. So Baptiste prefers close ranges. We can go a little bit more in depth on that after the game is done, but try to stick close with your team because it's going to be the easiest way to heal everyone. Okay. Right there, when Sigma uses his ultimate on you, right, you discussed how you knew what that does, right? It does half damage. And that'd probably
Yeah.
be a good time to throw your Immortality Field.
Yeah.
The Immortality Field can keep you all from dying, and that's going to be pretty important to use, especially like when ultimates are coming around. But you want to use that anytime everyone or even like just one person, right? If someone or
Mhm.
multiple people are about to die, right? Which there in that situation, that probably could have kept us alive, right? Which meant that we could do stuff. Good decision not to run in there. Okay, watch your health bar. Make sure you're pressing shift when you're low. That will heal you up. Oh, unfortunate. So when you're low, just pay attention to your health bar. Make sure we're watching it because we don't want to be sitting at 40 HP. You have
Okay.
your shift you can use, but then also if you don't have that active, you can also request healing from your other support, which will get you healing faster.
Okay.
Which is a button you can press. I believe it's default to X, I think.
Okay.
Then besides that, again, Immortality could have possibly saved our life as well there. Just want to make sure we're not holding on to abilities, as this game is a very ability and ultimate based game, right? Alright,
Oh.
so we seem to be walking in a lot when we don't really have teammates there with us. So we'll go
Okay.
again, we'll go more in depth on that after this round is done. We'll just kind of talk about that a bit, but just make sure we're not walking in when we don't have people with us. On top of that, it's now been 2 or 3 fights since we've had our ultimate. We just want to make sure we're looking to use that thing, because again, it's kind of the same thing as Immortality Field. If we're not using it, it just doesn't do anything at all, right? It's just not going to get any value.
Yeah. I've just been waiting to kind of have the whole team around so we could use it.
Yeah, which a lot of times with the current team you're on, you're not going to have everyone around to use it, so... Alright, so that gets into positioning stuff. We'll talk more in depth on that after the game is done and how we can position ourselves properly.
Okay.
But then again, good.
Just a question. Do the heroes have an advantage, disadvantage per map? Like, are there specific heroes you may want to avoid for a map, or is it pretty balanced in that sense?
Yes, there are. That is definitely a thing. Different maps are better for different characters, but that is kind of slightly more advanced, and it'd be hard to give you every single example because there are a lot of them. So we kind of have to go over every map in the game if we wanted to talk about that.
Okay,
Unless you had a specific map that you were questioning about. Alright, so I'm going to stream if you would like to take a look over on Discord.
Yep.
Just one moment. Okay, now it's up.
Yep.
All right, so we're going to talk about a few different things here. So one of the biggest things is just,
No dying on my
like I
watch.
said, in that game was just make sure we're using our abilities and ultimates faster, because we used Immortality Field pretty,
No wasted.
rarely. It's a 20-second cooldown, so, or sorry, 25-second cooldown, right? You're going to be getting that decently often, right? At least like once per fight, right? But we only used it like 2, maybe 3 times that game, right? Which just is pretty inconsistent, and we're not using it very often. In our ultimate, again, we only use like once that game, which if we're
Yeah.
using it, the faster we use it, like let's say we use it the first fight we got it, then we would be
Yeah.
charging up another one, and then we'd be getting now the value of 2, 3 ultimates, right? So in that
Okay.
time that we used, one single ultimate, we could have had more, 2, 3 ultimates in that same time, gotten value out of it, and potentially won more fights, right? So just using our abilities more often. Now, moving on to some stuff. So positioning real quick. Positioning, this is something that's going to apply to, every character in the game, most FPS games out there, is if we're standing right here, right, and the whole
Yeah.
enemy team's standing over there, right, and they're all looking at us, takes us 1, 2, 3 seconds to get behind cover. Now, from here, we can't get shot at, right? You can't shoot through solid objects, so we're good. That's a little bit different in Siege, right? But
Yeah.
you can't shoot through solid objects in Overwatch, so that means that now we're good, we're safe. But in that time it took us to walk there, we died, right? Because that was
Yeah.
very far out in the open. Now, from here, in half of a second, we can duck behind cover, right? We can do most of the same stuff from here, except for it's 6 times as fast as when we were standing over there. So this is going to give us a lot more survivability and allow us to stay alive a lot longer. So, for example, when we died that one time when I said we were going to talk about positioning, we were just kind of standing on point, and that's probably not where we're going to want to be standing, because it's just very, very aggressive, like in the middle of nowhere, very far into the enemy team. Probably want to kind of stick a medium distance away from the enemy team, not running into them, and probably want to not be in the middle of nowhere, right? It's
Yeah.
just good common positional advice. Now that changes how close you want to be to the enemy team changes a little bit depending on what character you're on. But on supports, a lot of times you want to kind of be a little bit more passive, because you're healing your team, not attacking the enemy team a lot of the time, right? Now, we talked about just staying closer to your team. Now, Baptiste benefits a lot from staying closer to your team. I don't want to go a ton into just like the specifics of Baptiste if we're like super in depth, if you're just going to be swapping around characters here. But just real quick, Bap prefers to be next to his team because, first off, the nature of projectiles. So both his right click here and as also his Immortality Field are both projectiles. They have a travel time, and therefore the nature of projectiles is that they're harder to hit at a distance, right? Because you have to predict a little bit more. So therefore, we're going to find more value out of being closer to people, because it's going to be a lot easier to hit those two. It's also going to get them healing and immortality faster, as it doesn't require any travel time to get to them. Also, on top of that, when we're far away from them, we can't give them our shift because it's a 10-meter distance, so this would be out of range to heal them with our shift ability. And then on top of that, it's also going to be decently hard to give them our ultimate if we're far away, whereas if we're right with them, now we can give them and ourselves an ultimate both at the same time, right? So there's just all reasons why he wants to be next to his team, not far away. Now, moving on of awareness to how to know whether or not you've kind of won or lost fights, and kind of paying attention to where your team's at. So this gets into watching kill feed. So kill feed is the top right corner of your screen, and you will see from there when people are dying on which team, right? How you tell whether or not you're winning or losing fights is you pay attention to kill feed and you see when we're up or down people. When we are up 1 to 2 people, that is an advantage, right? With an advantage, you can be more aggressive because they have less people to shoot at you and kill you. And when you're up 2 to 3 people, that is a 1 fight, right? At that point, you want to get, or you don't want to use any ults, because at that point, if you're ulting, then that would just kind of be overkill. It wouldn't really do anything because you've already won the fight. And then also on top of that, you want to get super aggressive. That way you can go in and punish the people and get more kills, right?
Yeah.
Now, this also goes the exact opposite way when you're down 1 to 2 people. Then that is a disadvantage, right? You didn't lose the fight yet, but you might want to play a little bit more passive because you're losing the fight, right? And then when you're down 2 to 3, that is a lost fight. No ults in lost fights, and then we want to look to get out if possible. And if you can't get out, then you want to just regroup. That way you don't stagger yourself, which just as to define that term is dying late, basically. Because if you die late, then that starts a whole host of problems, like you're wasting time, or your team could just walk in without you and then be at a disadvantage. So what happened in that last game we were in was multiple times we would just walk in when we didn't have teammates with us. Like we would walk in when our team was still dead in spawn. We did that like twice, and then what that means is that we're basically walking into a already lost fight, right? We're walking in
Yeah.
before the fight's even begun, losing it, right? So we want to make sure we're waiting and grouping up. And if you notice, the fight that we actually won at the very end was when our whole team was grouped up. So just make sure we're waiting for them and not going in on our own. And then I think that is it for now. So you can look to go ahead and hop into another game.
Okay.
Okay. Are there any characters, I guess, that you are confused about or like have questions about or would like to just do a quick rundown of how they work while we're just kind of queued up right now?
Yeah. I guess Moira. And I don't really understand Symmetra and Zarya.
Okay. So, first off, it does not seem like you're in queues, so you can hop into a game while
Yep.
you're going. Unless you wanted me to go, just go over more characters like that, that's fine. And then we can just take time to go over them. But, Moira, she has her fade. This will make her invincible while also giving her mobility. That
Mm-hmm.
you can travel pretty far with it, so you can use it for mobility to get somewhere faster, or a lot of times you're going to use it when you're low or taking damage, right, to just get away from the enemies. You have your orb, which you can choose to heal or damage with. When you can throw it to just heal your team up or yourself up, and then you can also just throw it in for damage. If you're damaging somebody, this will allow you to kill them like twice as fast because we can damage them both with our right click and also our orb. And then healing
Okay.
is the same thing, right? You can heal somebody twice as fast by throwing them an orb. So you'd throw them a healing orb, for example, like when and think of Moira in the same way as Baptiste. Anytime healing is not necessary, you are damaging. So that applies to your primary and secondary fire. That applies to your healing orbs, or sorry, your orbs in general, and then also applies to your ultimate. If people
Okay.
don't need healing, you're damaging with like pretty much all of your kit, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how you're splitting up your when you're doing what. Her ultimate, this your ultimate. I guess we have to charge it up a little bit. She also does self-healing when she does her damage with her right click. So she kind of gets a healing over time effect. So you can see we take some damage, and then as I right click, you're gonna see that health go up on the bottom left. So she does do that as well. Let me just get more, I guess, more stuff. I guess Moira also prefers to be at a close range because she does have a range on her left click for healing. So you need to be within range of that to actually get healing on teammates, right?
Tell me how this feels.
And then her ultimate goes, basically you want to line up as many people as possible because it goes through everybody and it does both healing and damage. So we want to try to line up as many people as possible because if we're just damaging one person, that's not very much. But if we can get them all up in a little line together, then we can damage everyone all at once. So we can kind of wait till they all come out more so towards the middle, and then now we can start to like kind of line them up like that, right, where we're damaging 2 people at once rather than just 1 person at once, right?
Okay.
So that's kind of Moira's kit. Was there anything else there that kind of confused you?
No, so her orbs are more like a multiplier.
Yeah, you can think of it as a multiplier. Yeah, like I mean, you can also like for example, if somebody needs healing, all the way over there, right? You can throw the orb to heal them from far away. You can throw it to burst heal, so like when somebody's really low or is in danger, you can heal them up really really fast, because
Okay.
you're healing both from the orb and from yourself, right?
Okay.
Okay,
So in like a 1v1, you wanna use both orb and the pull, like the damage.
you can't you choose one or the other. You can't throw both.
Okay.
So you do either heals or damage, and then once the cooldown comes back, then you can choose again.
Okay.
Okay, so Symmetra, Symmetra has her
The
TP,
true enemy of humanity
right?
is
TP can
disorder.
go, it has a distance on it, but you can use the teleporter to get teammates faster back from spawn, to take high grounds, to get better positioning. You can send turrets through it. So a common strategy that Symmetras will go for is they'll place all 3 turrets on the
in
floor,
place.
right? Just go
Mm-hmm.
turrets, right? And then they can, you can, like, for example, snap. Actually, I probably should have done this. It's fine. We'll use it on this spot, right? And then you just place the
Teleporter
TP up there, and then
online.
turrets go through
I
it,
have
and
opened the
then
path.
that's what you call a turret bomb, right?
Okay.
So that's something a lot of Symmetra players will do, and you kind of place that behind them, so they're surprised by it. On
Why do you
Symmetra, you have 2
struggle against your
friars, you have
fate?
primary and secondary. Your left click is just a beam. It does have a range on it, so make sure you're using it when within the range. So it's kind of like your close range fire. And then it ramps up its damage, so it has 3 different levels. At 1, you're basically barely doing any damage, but then as it gets thicker, you'll see it's starting to get thicker. That's where it does its max damage, actually melting people really, really fast, right?
Okay.
This can you can charge up that beam on people, but then also shields and then certain objects as well from, like, for example, May Wall. You can get the beam
Everything in its
off
place.
of, and then shields, right? Character shields like Reinhardt shield. She while she's damaging that, she also recharges her ammo as well, rather than taking
Okay.
ammo. So that's a useful tidbit to know as well. Your right click, you're gonna want to use this at further ranges is the main one, or if you're trying to burst someone down when they're like lower health. And particularly like if you don't have like left click charged up yet, probably gonna want to charge it up all the way, because that's where you're doing kind of your max damage. Whereas if you just kind of do this, then you're not really doing very much damage. Like, it just kind of tickles them a little bit. It's not really gonna do very much for you, so you're probably gonna want to charge it up more. Her wall, it's just a big wall. It goes across the entire map. You can place it like this, but a lot of times it's actually gonna be useful to place it like this on people, because we can kind of do what you call like shield dancing, where like they're on this side, they come over to shoot at you, you cross to the other side, then you cross over to the other side, right? So we just kind of do this on
Mm-hmm.
people, right? Where then they come back and then we cross to the other side, right? That's just
Nice.
really useful to do that, and then that's pretty much her whole kit. Also notice she on her health bar.
Mm-hmm.
Just in general, because I don't know if this is general game knowledge or not at where you're at currently, but there are a couple different
Know
types
your
of health.
place.
You have normal health, which just needs to be healed. You have shield health, which she has if you see that blue health.
Yeah.
That means that's going to actually regenerate when you're outside of fights. So you see it takes damage, we can come out to the side here, and it's actually just going to regenerate there.
Okay.
So certain characters have that. I believe Zarya has that as well. And then armor health, such as like Reinhardt, that's that orange or yellow, whatever, health there at the bottom. That health is going to be that's a little bit more complicated. Think of it like it takes a certain percentage of damage away from each individual shot. So on a character like Hanzo, who has one big damage shot, it's not going to
Mm-hmm.
do a whole lot against him. But on a character like Tracer, who does a ton of tiny little shots, armor is going
Yeah.
to do a lot against her, because it takes out of every single shot. It takes a damage out of that. So armor is good against characters that have like spread and a lot of tiny pellets.
Okay.
So then moving on, you see Zarya as well. So Zarya,
Together.
she has her left click and her right click. You're going to mainly just the big thing here is that you're just going to left click when you're within range of it, because it's your most consistent ammo or way to be shooting, right? And that is 15 meters in which she can actually start shooting. You'll see that she's starting shooting when you're doing damage, or when you see those hit markers, the white markers on your crosshair, right? When we step outside of that, we're not actually doing any damage. When you're outside of that range, you're going to want to right click. That way we can actually hit people from a distance, right? Her bubbles do 2 things. First off, they
Mm-hmm.
do tanking, because they act as a shield on somebody. But the other thing
Okay.
they do is they give you energy. So that's you see the number you have underneath your crosshair right there.
Yeah.
Can go up to 100%. When you're at
Okay.
0%, you do basically no damage. You do very little damage, where you kill someone very slowly. When that's at 100%, you're one of the best damages in the game. You do a whole lot of damage when you have that up high. That's going to slowly deteriorate over time. So let's say you get up to 100. Over time, it's going to keep going down and down and down, and then you can keep getting it back up with both your personal bubble and then also with the teammate bubble. By the way, I forgot to mention that the exact same thing happens with Symmetra with her beam levels, is it goes up and then it starts to ramp down over time, right?
Okay.
It doesn't just stay at the max. Now, you want to make sure, you know, you're actually bubbling when people are shooting at you. That way you actually get the value out of it. People have to, it's basically you get the energy based off how much damage is coming in. These guys aren't doing any damage at all, so when I bubble, it's just going to be 6. But you can get a maximum of 40. So you want to be damaging when you bubbling when the most damage is going to be coming in, and that's also going to be usually the time where you're getting the most tanking anyways, right?
Okay.
Her ultimate, let's real quick get that. Her ultimate is one of the most powerful ultimates in the game, and this is Graviton Surge. That is, it groups a ton of people up into a tiny little ball. So right here, you probably want to aim it in the feet of between as many people as possible. I think we're only going to be able to get 2 people here because they're so spread out, but we're going to basically, we're going to wait for them to group up, and then once they're grouped up, it's going to kind of keep them grouped up and keep them in a ball for a long period of time. So it acts like that, and it just keeps them there. Why this is so powerful is because you can shoot them super easily while they're stuck in there, and it also combos very, very well with most ultimates in the game, right? You can combo that with, you know, Doomfist ultimate, Genji ultimate, Hanzo ultimate, Junkrat ult, Kree ult, Mei ult, Pharah ult, Reaper ult. Pretty much 3/4 of the ults in the game you can combo with a Graviton because it clumps them up all together where you can do a ton of damage into it, right?
Okay.
And then that's pretty much it for her. And
So like that would work really good with like a Junkrat.
yep, exactly. Probably say like if you're looking for like the most powerful combo would be a Zarya Grav and a Hanzo Dragon together.
Okay.
As it does a ton of damage and it goes through shields, and so they can't like block it very easily,
Yeah.
right? Just very very consistent. It's very easy to land both of them when paired together.
Okay.
Right? So any other characters, or did you want to hop into a game?
Yeah, we could go do another game.
All right, sounds good. All right. So yeah, just let me know when you get into a game, though. I don't know what. Okay, you're in a game
Yeah,
already.
I just got one. Yeah.
These queues are fast.
Traveling to
It's because I just chose the flex.
Yeah. Okay. True.
There is no obligation for the universe to make sense to you.
All right.
Holy standing around while there's work to be done.
So you're aware of just to confirm that you're aware of this, because it maybe isn't obviously apparent. After you use your grasp, your shift,
I see.
what
Mhm.
happens once you eat all that damage?
It gets added onto my health in that dark blue armor.
Very good. All right, just checking.
And just to double check, he does take splash damage from his own orbs, correct?
Yes, though it's very little, and it's also, you know, people aren't going to be near you all the time, so I
Mhm.
wouldn't worry a ton about it. It's not something to where you probably, like, you'd only need to worry about that if you're like 1 HP and you're right next to somebody. It would be the only situation ever.
Much better.
Okay. Make sure once your shield's not doing anything, that you're just recalling it and then replacing it. Like, it might be more useful in the front line. Rock, you're not gonna want to use that as just a shield breaker, because the real main purpose of Rock is for the stun, not the damage. So you want to just be using that to hit people outside of shields, not in shields. So like right now when they don't have shields up, that's where we could be using Rock, right? Okay. If we want to just get super high up on our health so that we can do more things, you just might want to grasp earlier in the fight, right? Just use your abilities more often.
Okay.
Yeah, like exactly right now we're just like really high on our health and we can now actually do things.
Fully predictable. Barrier unstable.
I already like the AD strafing that you're doing. That you're walking side to side rather than just standing still. That's nice.
My barrier's about to go. Taking possession of the objective.
All right, so the mechanics looking pretty solid.
Observe the barrier.
Chapter is ready to be deployed.
Yeah.
Retrieving the barrier.
So far, I don't think mechanics is too big of a deal. It's a lot of just getting used to abilities, ultimates, and how mechanics of the game works, right? General positioning things.
Look at you.
Do you suggest changing different sensitivities for different heroes, kind of like a Reinhardt or something? Should be different from a Widow.
You can, like, some characters that don't require aim, you can have it higher, though I play a lot of different characters, and I just keep the same sensitivity for every character, really. Very solid ultimate usage, though it's unfortunate that they transed it. Alright, so there in that situation, I actually think we were going in before we had our whole team with us, so just make sure we're paying attention to our surroundings.
Okay.
And then on top of that, we ended up using our ultimate and they tranced it, and they also placed Orisa Bongo. That'd be where you might want to start backing off instead of going super aggressive, because Orisa Bongo is probably like the most powerful ultimate in the game and damage boosts every single person on the team, which means that they can like shred you instantaneously, right? Which means that we just might want to back up instead of pushing in. Walk past the shield instead of just damaging it, right? If it's not shielding anybody, there's no reason to shoot at it.
He's a lovely tailor marker.
Behind you.
My barrier is destroyed.
Alright, look pretty decent.
Victory.
There, we kind of sat in the middle. Make sure you're looking to get out of that. That will freeze you and keep, if you are standing in it, so try to escape it as fast as possible. On top of that, we kind of, again, left our shield up at main and probably say that's one of the other ones to pay attention to is just make sure you're not leaving your shield doing absolutely nothing, but when it's not doing anything, we're pulling it back so we can reuse it, or even just let it regenerate so we actually have health on it. Now, with your, I think we started to use it a little bit more solidly, but just in general, you're using your rock whenever you get the chance, just off a cooldown, just as long as it's not into a shield, just anytime you get the opportunity. And then with your grasp, kind of same thing. It's a little bit more reactionary, but I'd like to just see it used slightly more often, because again, we're not using it very often, especially if you use it at the very beginning of the fight. Then that sets you up with like 600, 800 health at the very beginning, which can allow you to take more space and be more aggressive, right? All right, so I didn't have anything in particular to go over in the training range, unless again you wanted to go over any particular character. So if you didn't, then you can just go ahead and hop into another queue.
Could you go over Bridget as well? Actually.
Yep. Yes, I can.
And after, I kind of want to get your idea of, like, I know metas change. But if I'm gonna focus on like a handful of heroes to just like get better, I'm just curious as to, based on like how you see me play and kind of me being a newer player, like who you think. Well, obviously not being a newer player because it's not gonna help down the line, but kind of what heroes would be better for me to play or more tailored to my skills.
Overall, so I get what you're saying. So overall, I would say the number one thing you're looking for when you're looking at like trying to pick a character is what do you have the most fun playing? Because obviously this is a video game and your goal here is to have fun and not to, I mean, like some people, like, they have fun winning, so that's why the second one comes in, like play what you're good at, right? So you want to try to prioritize like what you have the most fun playing, because if you have the most fun playing it, you'll probably want to improve the most at it and play it the most, and you'll have fun win or lose, right, if you're playing your character. But then the second thing you're looking for is just what you're good at. So I'll keep an eye on what you're good at. I definitely think you're good at Sigma in comparison to the other ones that I saw. I can't remember. What were you playing the first game they were
First
in?
game was
Baptiste. Yeah,
Baptiste. Yeah.
so I definitely say your Sigma was more solid than your Baptiste, but that's also just because you have more experience with Sigma for the moment. Because
Mhm.
you said you already looked into him and played him a little bit more, so it would be slightly hard. I'll try to keep an eye on it and let you know what I think. But at the moment, he was who you have been best at so far. So
Okay.
Brig, how she works, she has a basically she's a close range character, right? You think of her like that. She because she needs to be able to use her bash, which stuns people, and she needs to be able to get her inspire up. So her inspire is what you're gonna be thinking a lot about. So her inspire is we hit somebody, and you see that little puff of air that comes out. That is
Yeah.
healing. That is healing your team. And
Okay.
then you have what you call inspire uptime percentage at the very bottom right of the screen right now. That's going to be
Mhm.
like how often is that up. So you want to basically be hitting people as often as possible. That way we can constantly be healing our team. And
Okay.
it basically it'll heal them. You'll hit somebody and then you'll heal them for like the next 4 or 5 seconds, I believe.
Mhm.
And then it'll stop, right? And then you'll need to hit somebody again, right? So
Will the times stack?
no, it will
Like if
not stack. It's
okay.
just you hit them once, 4 seconds later, you have to hit people again, right?
Okay.
Or it'll reset it. So if I hit somebody and then I hit them again, it'll reset to that 4 second counter. So 4 seconds, 4 seconds, 4 seconds. I actually don't know if it's 4 seconds. It might be 5 seconds. I can't remember though. But it'll reset it, right? A very
Mhm.
easy way you can do this as often a very easy way you can do this no matter how close you are to enemies is using your whip shot, because this will also do the same thing. And
Okay.
it basically it is a pretty fast cooldown. It's a 4 second cooldown, and that pretty well times up with that time where it's about to come out, like where your inspire is about to go down. So if
Yeah.
you're hitting whip shots very consistently, that's going to keep your inspire going, and you can hit people from wherever. Now your whip shot will boop people backwards and do a bunch of damage as well. So you're going to want to use it either to boop people, to activating your inspire, or to damage somebody. Your bash will stun people, which can allow you to, your team to follow up with damage, yourself to damage them, and also will you can use it as just a movement thing. Though it doesn't move you very far, it can be used, especially like if you're walking back from spawn or something like that. So we can just bash
Yeah.
to get forwards faster. You also have a shield, which you have to be holding to use your bash. Your shield will, you're going to want to be using anytime you're just being shot at or you're low or anything like that, right? Or you're trying to
Mhm.
shield a teammate or any situation where a shield would be needed, right? You also have 3 packs. These do not do anything really once they're full HP. That's not. They have to be low, so make sure you're not healing them when they're full HP, but you're healing them when they're down lower. This will heal them over time. It does not heal them they do not stack in the fact that they heal them faster, but one will be used after the other. So for example, if I throw 2 on this guy, the first one will happen, and then after the first one's done, the second one will activate. So you're
Okay.
not very often are you gonna want to throw multiple on somebody unless they're really low or it's like a tank, right?
Okay.
Then besides that, Rally, so her ultimate provides a constant stream of armor. So that armor that we've talked about before, where it does you take less damage from tiny little shots, but it adds on top of their health. So it's not just healing them, or adding that to their health. It's adding it on top, which gives them extra health. So look at our health bar right now; it's going up.
Yeah.
So that caps out of that, right? And so they have a bunch of extra health now. This will last 10 seconds. Preferably, you'd be using that during the fight. That way you have the armor constantly replenishing while you're fighting. While you have that active, you also snap! I forgot to sing. I have to charge it back up now because I forgot to mention the other parts of it. You also get, while that is active, you get a speed boost, so you can move around faster. And then I believe that's it.
Okay.
I don't think you actually. By the way, if you're looking for any information on people that that you're confused about after we're done the coaching session, you can press
Mhm.
F1, and that will show you some things about them,
Descriptions.
right? Descriptions about what everything does, right? So what we're looking at. So ultimate, move fast and provide armor for nearby. Yeah, so it's move faster and that's it. And then the armor. So think of yourself basically, once you use that, as a tank. You
Okay.
would get soup. You can run at people, and unless you're just running in 1v6, you'll probably survive, right? You can be a lot more aggressive when you have that available, because you're gonna be healing yourself constantly. You're gonna have a bunch of extra health. and you're also going to have more speed, right? So you can just kind of run at people and swing on them and do damage, right?
So she also benefits from the Inspire, right?
She does, let's see, I actually don't remember that, so here we can see just that. Yes, she does.
Okay. So
So
she would be pretty good to play up top with like 2 tanks.
yeah, so she'd be like positioning wise, she'd basically be positioning herself like right behind the tanks, right?
Yeah.
That way she doesn't want to be in the all the way front because then she only has 200 health. She just get melted immediately. But if you're standing behind them, they can kind of do the tanking for you while you can still be within range to do things, right?
Yeah.
Alright, so that's pretty much it on break. So any other ones, or do you want to hop into another game?
I'll hop into another. I'm also curious of how you're able to, or like, boost management on the Pharah.
Boost
Like
management.
that.
So
Yeah.
basically, when it comes to Farah, you're going to use all of your fuel, and then you're going to boost at the very end of your fuel, and then you're
Okay.
just going to tap it at like a couple seconds of intervals. And you're just going to tap, and you'll see you descend slowly, and then we'll get our boost back. Make sure you're using it basically as soon as it comes off a cooldown. So if you look at the bottom right, we're just going to be using our boost the second that it comes off, right? So the 2 seconds, 1 second, so we're just boosting immediately, right? And this is where you can basically fly indefinitely using that. I think you actually cannot, and oh, actually, it's looking like you can actually fly indefinitely. I thought they you descended slowly, but it looks like you can just barely descend. You can just barely fly indefinitely, just in place if you're doing it like that. But you're just going to be tapping it every couple seconds. You're not gonna hold it in because then you run out of fuel. Like if you hold it in, watch what happens, right? We just do this, right?
Yeah.
So instead, you're just gonna tap it. Just tap spacebar every couple seconds, and then you're going to boost every time you get it. You can also get more height if you shoot the ground as well. So you can do this when you're jumping. So look how high we jump when we do that. Though keep in
Yeah.
mind that will do explosion damage to you. So it's usually only going to be good if you have a support with you. And then you can also do this while doing a regular shift jump, right? So if we do a regular shift, right? See how high we go here, right? We go up. Right, roughly around here, right? Now, I'm going to
Mhm.
shoot the ground at the exact same time that I am shifting, and watch how
Mhm.
high I go now.
Well.
Right, so
Yeah.
much higher. But again, it does damage to you, so just a lot of times it's really good to get a teammate, and just Pharah Mercy as a combo is a very good character combo, one of the best character combos in the game, because Mercy can fly around with the Pharah and heal her very easily and pocket her while
Yeah.
she does damage. So, are you in queue currently?
Yeah. I'll queue up right now.
No. So yeah, I guess just to walk through other ones while you're in queue here, just other abilities. So she also has a concussion. This can be used on herself, but then also on enemies as well. So for herself, she can use this for mobility, either by looking straight down, and pressing W, you can boost yourself forwards while flying too. You can also turn around and look at wherever you're trying to boost. So like we can, for example, do this, right? To
Oh,
boost up somewhere.
nice.
Yep, so that's if you're trying to get more vertical rather than horizontal movement going, right? You can also boop enemies off of the map, or boop them, like, for example, into shots, right? Or something like that. So that's pretty handy as well. Then her ultimate is a barrage. It lasts 3 seconds long, and it's going to do a whole heck of a lot of damage. Just make sure that we're not doing it when everyone's staring at us, because we will be standing still while we do it, so we cannot move around while we're using it, right?
Okay.
But it'll look like that, right? Preferably also want to use it a little bit closer to people, because the further away it gets, the slower the projectiles are going to be to get to them. And then also it's just not going to be a lot more spread out and not do as much damage. So you want to be closer to people while you're using that.
Okay.
Right, and then that is pretty much it with her kit. So just make sure, are you in a game yet? Yes, you are.
Yeah,
Okay,
I've queued in.
spectating.
Welcome to Hollywood.
So yeah, a good thing that you can do here is just toss a orb into spawn, like anytime. Just basically you're just going to be throwing damage orbs off of cooldown every time you get them, because it's just going to get you roughly 10% to your 10% ultimate charge. So here we'll see just off of that alone we just got up to 7%, 8%, right? So that just if you're doing that consistently, you're going to be getting your ult a lot faster, right? Because now we have it again, and we can do that again. Oh,
Oh,
Moira is still a support, right? So try to
yeah.
stick more so behind your team and with them rather than going off on your own and trying to get behind them.
Okay.
Because she doesn't have the highest damage output, so you want to be able to stay within range so that you can help your team and they can help you.
Oh, yeah.
This will restore you.
Oh, I didn't make it.
It does travel in a straight line, so make sure you're not angling it like up or down, because there we angle it kind of up in the air and then that got caught.
Get into position.
Oh, that's one thing I did forget to talk about on her. She does have a resource bar for her healing, if you see that. So
Yeah.
how you replenish that is by doing damage with your right click. It does not replenish with your ultimate or your orb, though.
Cast this forth.
So you see that when we did damage there, now it went back to full, and now we can heal again. So if you're damaging consistently, you shouldn't need to worry about that too much. Yeah, right now we just want to be backing up, right? Because we don't have teammates with us, right? Just paying attention to the kill feed, right? There's a lost fight, so we group up.
Dead eyes ready.
Shohei Mahol. Help me.
Hiya. Oh, ice wall coming up.
Okay, watch your health bar right now. We could be throwing a healing orb to heal ourselves up.
Oh,
Oh, so we can throw a healing orb to heal ourselves up. We can grab a health pack. We can request healing, right? A bunch of different options.
okay.
That changes my thinking.
Use your fade to get out of spawn faster. Again, it's just a movement ability, so you know it's a pretty low cooldown. So characters that have movement abilities, you're just gonna use it to get back to the fight sooner. They'll pay attention to the kill feed, right? Because now
This will
we
heal
are
you.
currently losing that fight, so we might want to be grouping up.
I'll rebuild you.
Oh my god. They're all done.
Yeah, because there we go back in and then we end up staggering ourselves, right? So we die late, and then that means that our team's going in without us, and then they're gonna die late, and then that starts what you call stagger train,
must
where just
reflect upon
you
this.
keep going in one by one or two by two, and then you keep losing fights because of that, right? So want to make sure we're not starting that by staggering ourselves.
My servants never die.
My will made real.
Step right up.
Oh, I have ult, but I don't.
Yep. So you use your ultimate in any fight that has not been won or lost yet, right? There you can fade out of the Graviton Surge, just so you're aware. And then, to say that again, because you were in the middle of dying, you ult in any fight that you have not won or lost yet. So there where you're considering it, you think in your head, did we win? Did we lose? If you didn't win or lose, then go ahead and use it, right? Because you want to just get it out there, because there, if we use...
This.
Sorry about that. Someone just slammed the door.
Yeah, no.
Because if you use it, right, then that means that you possibly could have won that last fight.
I will surrender to my will.
Freeze! Don't move.
My will made real.
Alright, there, while we were ulting, you were swapping targets quite a lot. Like, we were on one person, then we swapped to another, and then we swapped to another. Put all that damage in one person, and then you can actually kind of whittle them down. Whereas if you're constantly swapping, then you're never going to finish anybody off, right?
Touch from afar. A small loss. Strength flows from you.
Sniper, look out.
My ultimate is ready.
My servants never die.
Become powerless. The body decays.
This is
I require assistance.
Okay, so there when we died when we had a shift and when we also had a orb, so that means we could have healed ourselves. So pay attention to deaths like that, because deaths are obviously something we don't want to have, and then that's a death that could have been preventable. Maybe, for example, we used our abilities, right? So we want to make sure we're just keeping an eye on those and then trying to figure out ways that we can stay alive longer.
Your injuries are fascinating.
Freeze! Don't move!
Surrender to my will.
Oh, pretty good ult.
Raising the volumes.
The power of destruction.
What am I paying you for anyways?
Personne more. I'm helping.
That's so huge.
My will made real.
Ooh.
Alright. So there we were kind of out in the open, not so great
Yeah.
positioning, and then on top of that, make sure again we're throwing damage orbs when people are critical. So I think a couple times like some people would be critical on our team and we just didn't notice it, or we were still damaging. So make sure the healing is the priority on our Moira there, right? So when people need healing and they're critical, we want to make sure we're prioritizing the healing and we're throwing healing orbs. We're not throwing damaging orbs and whatnot. All right.
Okay.
Right, so we're coming up at the end of the first hour here, yeah. So would you like to continue? Like we could, up to you. We could swap out that playtime for a second hour of coaching if you feel like you'd like that, or we could just move on to the play, play with the boogie part of it, and then that's also an option there.
I don't know. I'll put the ball in your court, whether if you think it would better serve to use this. Like, I'm honestly pretty free flowing with this.
So yeah, let's think about that. So a lot of the time, the play with me part is mainly going to be used for practicing the things that you're working on, as well as like asking questions about the game. I feel like that becomes slightly more useful when we're like later on in the sessions that we're having. So maybe we could do a 2-hour session, right? And then that, because you ordered a ton, right? So you have plenty of those to spare, and then that way you have the most information possible to work on. So that next time we have some more, you have a lot to work on, right? While we take usually I recommend like a week in between sessions.
Perfect, yeah.
So then why don't, we can just continue on then. Would you like to again go over any characters, or would you like to get into another game?
Let's see, Lucio. I'd like to learn.
Alright.
He seems like a really fun healer.
Yep, he is a very, very fun healer. Right. So Lucio, okay, this guy gets a little bit complicated. So
Okay.
stay with me. So first off, his aura. So his aura, you can see it. It's that line that goes around you. So all around you in that aura, you have healing and speed. That is what your crossfade does, which is your shift. Is you're going to control whether or not it is on healing or speed. When it's on speed, you will speed yourself up and your team up. When it is on healing, you will speed yourself up. When it's on healing, you will heal yourself and your team, right? Both of them. Okay. Your amp, which is your E, will give you additional healing for example, you would use it if your team is low and in need of burst healing, like this guy, right? You would amp it up, and then he'd get a lot of healing, right? And or if you want, and it'd also give you additional speed. So if you want to go super fast, then you can use the speed. How basically the rough sense of when you're using which is anytime you're just sitting still and not going anywhere. Or sorry, let me rephrase that. Anytime you or your team is trying to move anywhere, you should be on speed. Anytime that people are low or or in danger or critical, or you are just sitting around and not doing anything, then you're on healing, right? And that's kind of the split between that. Now, he also has a boop, which is his which is defaultly bound to his right click, which you can boop people off the map with. Boops them pretty far. You can boop people out of position, and also does like 25 HP of damage. His gun shoots in 4 burst, which means that you just I don't know what to say add on to that, but 4 gun burst. On top of that, his sound barrier is one that gives people like 1,000 HP, and then it will slowly deteriorate. So you want to use this as what you call a defensive ultimate. So when a lot of times you use this when like you have a ton of you're trying to save someone's life, so one person's critical or a ton of people are critical, or for example, you can use it to counter a lot of ultimates in the game, right? So big ultimate combos or just powerful ultimates you can beat, and then you can give all your team a bunch of health, and then it can help get them through the ultimates. So you would use it in response to those. Now your beat will spread in a big radius around you, though I believe it does have a range. So if you're super far away from someone, it won't reach that person over there. And then it also is line of sight based. So if you cannot see someone, they will not get it, though we can drag it around the corner. So we can beat and then drag it, and then they will receive it, right?
Okay.
But that will only last like a second, right? Your aura is also line of sight based, so if we're over here, they will not receive healing until we come back over here, over to them. And then you can see that if you look underneath your crosshair, you'll see it shows you how many people are in your aura. So right here, there's 2 people in our aura. We come over here around the corner, it says there's nobody in our aura, right?
Okay.
Um,
So the healing is more of like a passive attribute to Lucio.
Yeah, so I mean, he's still a support, but there's a lot of other. He's a lot more technical of a support. There's like, in supports you have basically you have supports that do a whole bunch of healing, and then you also have supports that like kind of are more. They have a lot more tech and like other things that their kit provides. Like one of the big things that Lucio provides and why people run Lucio is the speed boost, which is unique to him, right?
Yeah.
So on top of that, the last thing on Lucio is his wall riding. So you can wall ride on walls, and this will give Lucio increased speed and will allow him to zoom across the map. So I mean, like if you just let me get started here real quick, right? You can pretty much get places really fast. You get additional height.
That's so sick.
Yeah. So you can get places really fast, gives you additional height as well, so you can get like up to high ground, so you can get up high where it's hard for people to hit you. This allows you to get anywhere you want to be very fast if you want to. And it also gives you a ton of visibility because we can see people from up here too, from all over the place. So how you can wall ride effectively is you are going to, because you can hold down the button and then just do this, and it's not as, it doesn't make you go as fast, it's not as impressive, and it's going to be very easy to track you. So how you can look to wall ride better is, first off, you're going to spam your jump button. This is why I have it rebound to my right click, because with a lot of Lucio players, it'll hurt their thumbs to just be pressing the spacebar over and over again. But you're basically just going to be spamming your jump, right? And then secondly, you're just going to hold W. You're not going to press any of your side buttons. You're not going to go left or right. You're just going to hold W mainly, right? And then you're going to speed boost, obviously, just so you can go faster, unless people need healing around you. And then you're going to, instead of using your left and right to move around, you're going to use your camera to move around. So we're going to hold W, when you move our camera, we move in a certain direction, and then we're going to spam right click, and then we're going to try to go parallel to walls. So anywhere we see an object or a wall, we're going to put our camera parallel to it, right?
Okay.
So instead of like staring at the wall, right, that which becomes a lot harder to do, right? That means that you're just kind of walking into it, and becomes a lot more difficult, or it's staring away from it, in which case you're just running away from it. You're kind of going to go parallel, which kind of pairs best with it, right? So that's pretty much the basics of Lucio. Anything else?
What do you think of binding jump to scroll wheel?
That also I've heard is I'm pretty sure is a pretty effective way to do it. Now I have my scroll wheel as my melee, like a scroll wheel up is my melee. So
Okay.
because I used to have it like on my mouse button, but then I have my mouse buttons as my push to talks. So that's what I use those for. So I don't see really usually binding things to other things aren't too much of an issue. Like you're not gonna have like a super significant advantage or disadvantage from binding something to something else in general.
I actually really think I'm gonna like Lucio. He seems like a ton of fun.
Very fun character. Yep, I would say that, because he can do healing, do damage. He can go around and duel people very easily, right? Go and do things. If you're looking to duel people and get on top of enemies, make sure you're booping and meleeing as much as possible, because it will be very consistent damage. Right? We can just get in on top of them, boop them around. You can boop people up in the air, to kind of track him as he's coming down, right, to make shots pretty easy. And then just boop in melee as much as possible while you're getting on top of him. Alright, so that's pretty much him. So you want to play a game? Maybe we
Jump
go
some
over
more?
Lucio, or...
Yeah.
Alright, sounds good to me then.
So I'll queue support.
Sounds good, and then while you're queuing that, do you want to go over any other characters?
Feel the healing beat.
I guess Reinhardt.
Sounds good. So Reinhardt, let's see. So Reinhardt, shield obviously does shielding stuff. Your team can shoot through it, enemy team cannot. Place it down to let it recharge, same as Sigma. He also has a fire strike, which will go through shields and bubbles and whatnot, and will damage multiple people. It's just kind of piercing. It can go across the map, travels in a straight line. It does 100 damage. So this is a very good. You basically just want to press this off a cooldown, use it all the time because it's just a really good source of ult charge. And there's no reason not to usually, unless you're low. Don't press it when you're like 1 HP though. Charge does 300 damage, and it can also be it can be used for damage or for movement. Only use it a lot of times you want to use it for close range, because when you charge, it locks you in the animation, and therefore you're very, very easy to shoot at and stun. So when we do it at a close range, we get out of that animation immediately and can like one-shot a lot of squishy targets, and because it does 300 damage. And then if we're doing it like from further away, we could end up getting killed super easily. So if the only times we'd use it for mobility is if there's no enemies around, so we can use it to just charge out of spawn and go like really, really far, right? You can curve it as well, very slightly. Your hammer is going to be your main source of damage. This does, I believe, I can't remember. I think they nerfed it. They buffed it and then nerfed it, and I can't remember what's at. It was either like 75 or 80, somewhere around that. So it takes 1, 2, 3 swings to kill people. And then besides that, you have your shatter. You cannot shield and do anything else at the same time, right? You can't do anything once you have your shield up. Shatter is another decently powerful ultimate. A lot of tank ults you'll find are more powerful ones, but Shatter is going to it will be blocked by shields, by the way, right? And it can't go through objects, but it will stun people and put them on the ground. So it acts as a cone, so it will spread out from where we're at. So if we're too close, this will just go in between them. But if we back up a little bit, it will hit both of them here. Within a range, right? So we stun them, we can fire strike, swing on top of them, and then we can get kills while they're stunned, right? So that's pretty useful ultimate, and then that is most of him. He likes to get in on top of people, he likes to brawl, he doesn't like to just sit around, so make sure you're just going in and doing things while you're playing him, right?
Okay.
Right, so I'm spectating you.
Welcome to Rialto.
Oh, so you're already in a game there. If you're ever in a game while I'm still talking, just let me know. That way I can
Oh, okay.
just get to it later. Okay. Make sure you're just reloading your ammo anytime you're not doing anything, right? Just anytime there's a lull in a fight where there's nothing to do, just reload. That way you have it for when you need it.
Patched up. Yeah, let's pick it up.
Okay. By the way, sticking close to, like, just your goal should probably to be wall riding as much as possible. Stick as close to walls as often as possible, so you always have it as an option. And then this will also provide you good cover usage as well, as sticking close to walls is where you want to be for cover.
The dragon consumed you.
Join the Bigeshu.
Let's get patched up.
Yep, so like right now when we're just chilling, we'd be on healing, but once the team looks like they're trying to push, then we can speed them in. Alright, so right now they're pushing, so we can be more speeding.
You hear that? Healing.
Remember to use your boop. It is a close range ability though, keep that in mind. So you have to be pretty close to somebody for that to activate. It's a maybe like 2 times the melee range or 3 times the melee range.
Okay.
Oh, time to change it up.
A payload in motion stays in motion.
Heal up. Let's up the tempo.
And make sure we're using our amp more often. Once again, it's just kind of holding on to the abilities. Just anytime we want to we want to go in aggressive or where people are critical. Like for example, when the Hanzo was low right next to us.
Yeah, let's move it, people.
Payload progresses. Excellent.
Okay, so we do have our beat. So this fight, we're gonna be looking to use it anytime something people on our team are low. They're using a bunch of aggressive enemy ults, right? Just anytime our team looks like they need a lot of health.
Healing boost. Oh, let's break it. Damn.
Okay. Don't need to be really on healing when we just beat it, right? You can just swap the speed. That'll allow your team to capitalize on it. Plus, you don't really need health when you have 1,000 HP, right?
This payload's bumping. Healing boost.
Got you in my sights.
Good usage of cover there.
Oh.
Oh.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think just a lot of, mainly with all these different characters, is a lot, for the moment, the very basics is just getting used to their abilities, and then getting used to their ultimates and how they work, using them more often, just because that's one of the biggest parts of Overwatch is just those abilities and ultimates.
Let's get you healed up.
Form up on the payload. Move it out.
Oh.
Oh god.
Make sure we're looking to avoid the hog, right? We can boop him away to make it harder for him to hook us. We can make sure, we're using cover. We're not out in the open where he can hook us as easily. Wall riding can speed us up so that we're harder to hit. It seems as though we're kind of using wall riding while we're walking back from spawn, but then we kind of forget about it in the middle of fights. Which is to be expected the first time playing a character, right?
Move the payload.
Let's up. This is gonna make you feel better.
Observe the barrier.
Move to the beat. Heal up.
Activating self-destruct sequence.
Barriers about the area no longer exist.
And like when you see critical people like the Diva, for example, like those are just anytime you see critical people, that's instances where you can use your amp heals, right? Just because you want a bunch of good heal, like a bunch of fast heals to first heal them up. There, for example, with the Shatter, that could be a situation where you want to beat if you're not, of course, shattered yourself. Which being in the air can stop, wall riding can stop that from happening. Oh.
I didn't even use my ult. That would have been a good time to use my ult.
Double time. I hope nobody saw
Which
that.
the hog ult does stun you, so I mean you can't use it while you're in the middle of being ulted, but you can use it before that point, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, time to heal up. Oh, this is my jam.
Oh no.
Oh, let's break it. Damn.
And speed in, go aggressive, go move some people around, do some stuff.
My will.
Let's get patched up.
I cast this forth.
Yeah. Oh, you hear that? Get back. I'm under attack. Healing boost.
Oh no.
Special delivery.
Alright, very nice. So keep in mind that Lucio is what you call a very high skill cap character. So he as a character can do a ton when he is played at a very high level, or played very well, but he's also not as user friendly when you're just starting out, because for example characters that are the opposite, take for example Moira, who is very very easy to play and but the higher and higher you go, the less and less value she gets because she doesn't have the tech and utility that other characters provide. So characters such as Ana and Lucio a lot of the times trump out a Moira at super high ranks, but at low ranks people tend to go to stray a little bit more towards Moira because she's easier to play. Which, I mean, it's up to you on which way you want to approach it. You can practice at the better character and just try to get better with the better character, or you can go the the easier route and go for the character who's just easier to play, right?
Okay.
But I mean, it's definitely not, the gameplay didn't look as good as your Sigma gameplay, but again, you had more more time and experience and research put into how Sigma works. Whereas you practice a little bit more. The Lucio might get a lot better than the first try.
Okay.
Okay. More characters or another game?
I'll hop in again.
All right, sounds good. Just I guess while you're in queue, you can just go over a character and just let me know as soon as you get into a game, because I don't
Okay.
want to just be going over something when we don't need to. So anything else spark interest or confusing?
Echo.
Echo?
But I just hopped in a game.
Okay.
Or just got thrown in a game.
Sounds good.
100%. Double good. Traveling to Havana.
One shot. One kill.
Alright, so we're on right now.
A single hunted every
Executing pre-combat routine. Optimizing strategy.
Attackers incoming in 30 seconds.
Face me. I live for a good fight.
Zarya activated.
Five,
This will
four,
heal you.
3, 2, 1.
I'm sorry.
Attackers incoming.
Nice fire strike.
Stop the payload.
I recommend moving behind my barrier.
Allow me to repair the damage.
Okay, fire striking up a cooldown, and as a general rule, go in and swing when you have health and shields, and get out when you don't, right? Don't want to just be sitting around not doing stuff. You want to be swinging and actually participating. Oh. But then once we, don't be so don't be super aggressive, right? Maybe, for example, we can sit near our shield and our Orisa and then kind of swing in a little bit and then back out, right? There we lost some health and then just got shredded immediately. So just be, we don't have to go and go and go and go. We can just poke for a little bit and then back up, and then poke for a little bit and then back up, right? There we just got melted really, really fast because we stayed up a little bit too far and got a little bit too aggressive. And on top of that, just watch out for the enemy Reinhardt charges as well, right? Oh, make sure we're not we are shielding and paying very close attention to our health bar, right? Because health bar, you need to pay attention a lot more on a character like Reinhardt because you're taking a lot more damage. So once we get to around like half on that thing, we're putting up our shield, right, to get healed, and we're not dropping it to fire strike or to swing, because then we're just gonna get dead if we're trying to do that.
I think this objective is pretty much lost.
This will restore you.
Please, don't move.
Surrender to my will.
Nice charge.
Spasiba.
Keep in mind that your shield will not do anything against an enemy Reinhardt, so there's no use in just holding up for one Reinhardt. Okay, because he can swing through your shield, and he can also fire strike through your shield, which are his only two damaging abilities. On top of that, he was like 1 HP, and we were full HP, so we just want to be running after him, chasing him. Okay, here's where we can be like charging it back sooner, right? Get back to the fight faster.
So, as a tank, do you should you not chase like 1 HP? Stay a little more. No way.
Do you not chase 1 HP? Say that again?
as a tank? Like, is that not, should that not be your focus? Should it just be like payload or defense?
You definitely can. You want to usually prioritize winning the fight over the payload unless they're about to cap point. Okay, because winning the fight will mean that you stop the payload. Focusing only on the payload means that you just lose the fight and then they get it anyways. But your job as a tank is primarily to create space for the other roles, but you're also still doing damage and trying to do, kill things too when they're low. When you get charged at, you have a couple options. First off, you can try to dodge it, so watch for the charges, pay attention to them if they're killing us often, and move left or right to get out of it. But the other thing we can do is we can actually charge back at him, and what that will do is it'll put both, that's called a counter charge, and it'll put us both on the floor stunned, right?
Okay.
Now, you want to use that if you have more team support than he does, right? If his whole team's there, then you're gonna die. If your whole team's there, he's gonna die.
Gotcha.
Burning them down. Duplicating Reinhardt.
Okay, rather than just tapping your swing, you're probably gonna hold it down. On top of that, again, we keep going in we keep going in without our teammates, and we're being out of sync with them. Make sure when the fight was lost, that we're just letting them kill us, because there's no way we were gonna get out there in that situation. And then that just ended up staggering us further, right?
Surrender to my will.
No.
Alright, nice block. Again, just kind of getting charged, and that one was from even further away, so just make sure we're dodging out of that, because that keeps killing us, right? So we want to try to stay alive and not die.
I cast this forth.
This will protect us.
Okay, when people aren't shooting at us and we're not shielding anything in particular, just drop our shield, that way we can recharge it, right? We want to just get it up.
This is my will.
This will heal you.
Barrier activate.
Hold up now.
Yeah,
No.
because you see that just happens again and again and again, and we just end up dying, 3-4 times in a row because of the charge.
Yeah.
Alright.
No.
Defeat.
You say no, not your character? Or what?
No, I meant I wanted to use that ult there at the end.
Yeah.
Just as he pinned me.
Yeah. Alright. So, I guess there's some more things that we can go in depth on Reinhardt if you would like, or we can move on to other characters, or we get into another game. Anything you want to do?
I want to try a damage game.
Okay.
Says, should I use a priority pass?
You can if you have them. That'll just make him go a little bit faster. Yeah,
Alright.
Have we looked at any damage so far? I don't think we have. Have we?
Farah
Oh yeah, we looked at Farah and Symmetra, didn't we?
and
Yeah.
Symmetra, yeah.
So are you gonna go one of those two, or did you want to quickly review another one?
I was gonna do Echo.
Echo. Okay, well then, would you before you get into that game, would you like to review it
Yeah.
real quick?
Yeah.
All right. So maybe just leave the queue for a moment. Yeah.
Yep.
So Echo, she has her primary fire, which is it has no fall off, so it's gonna do the same damage from any range. Though it's gonna be it has a little bit of a spread, so you see like how it's those triangles, so it's a little bit harder to aim better at a far range, but it is do a lot of consistent, easy damage. She has sticky bombs, which are going to you can spread them out like that. Each of them do a little bit of damage, but together they do a ton of damage. So for example, like if we stick them all on one person, they take a whole heck of a lot of damage, and it will get them down like 1 HP. I already damaged him though, right? So that's a really easy way to get kills. You're going to be wanting to throw this out for extra damage every time, like off a cooldown, just every time you get it. All right. Now your beam is a little bit special. So your beam does very, very little damage to somebody who's full HP, right? very little damage, but once somebody's half HP, right? So they're half HP now. Your beams are going to do a whole lot more damage. So we want to watch for when people are half HP because watch how fast we melt them now.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so you can combo that in pair. Like after you get someone low, a lot of times you use it as the finisher. So beam is going to be responsible for a very large, like just beam is going to be responsible for like probably like half of your kills, and then your stickies are going to be like a quarter of your kills, and then your just primary fires can be a quarter of your kills, roughly speaking, right? So both of these guys are low. We just melt them down like super fast. You can do that. On tank characters too, that also applies to shields as well. So if a shield is half HP, you will melt the shield faster as well. Your fly, you can just use it normally, and you will be able to fly wherever you want to. You can press spacebar to go up. I believe you can hold crouch to go down. I think. Wait, let's test that out. Yeah, you hold crouch to go down, or you can just look around and press W where you're trying to go as well. This will allow you to take high grounds, go move faster for mobility. It'll allow you to get up in the sky and do things up in the sky, right? This creates what you call a kind of off angle where you can shoot people around shields, and you can shoot people from from above, which gets you around a lot of tanks and what you don't want to be shooting at. Then moving on, her ultimate is pretty unique. So her ultimate is basically you can swap to any character in the game. So we can use this thing right here. We can swap to any character. We can copy them, right? That's what you call a copy or duplicate. And then you become that character. You can use all the same abilities as that character. Everything is the same, except for you get your ultimate a ton faster. So watch this real quick. It lasts 15 seconds. Look at her ult meter. Okay. So that's one, right? That we just got off of shooting one person, right? So we can get multiple ults in here, right? So it's pretty nuts. Now this isn't gonna be like fully realistic in an actual game. We're probably not gonna get that many pulses, but you can get like, for example, and pulses also have faster charging one, but sometimes for the faster charging ultimates, you can get two. Like a lot of times it's like one ultimate is reasonable, but like 2 to 3 is definitely doable on Echo for ult. So just that's a probably say three is like if you get like a really good ult, it's like a pretty special, pretty rare. 2 is doable. 1 is common, right?
Okay.
There are some characters that are better to copy than others. Typically, tanks are going to be really good because they have the most powerful ultimates as well as they have a ton of health. So Reinhardt's a really good character to copy. Sigma's really good. Roadhog's really good. Diva's okay. Zarya's okay just because she takes a long... you have to get energy on her, which is hard. Ball's okay. Monkey's really good, right? Orissa's okay. Right, so tanks are really good. Some other DPSs are good as well. Supports, probably say you're not going to want to copy supports too often. Sometimes you can in certain situations, but not as often are you going to want to copy them.
Okay.
So then that is pretty much it with her, I think. So you can look to go ahead and get into a game. Just make sure we're flying around, that we're using cover in the sky, that we're not just flying out in the open, but we're kind of doing stuff like this, where we're using high grounds, we're using cover up here. That way we're not just getting melted very easily.
Okay.
And then keep in mind as well that she is a projectile character, so her projectiles will mean that she has to aim ahead of people, both with her left click and her stickies, her right click. But then with her beam, it's a beam, so it's hit scan, right? You have to aim straight at people.
Okay.
Activated.
So for heroes, do combos or a specific ability charge an ult faster than other abilities? Like, just, I don't know, like for Reinhardt, does his like Fireblade or his
Fire
kind
strike.
of Fire Strike charge up his ult faster than like melee damage
So
or shield blocking?
No, so shield blocking doesn't charge ult charge. So what charges ult charge is healing and damage, and then also charges naturally over time. So when you heal people, you will do you'll gain ult charge, and when you damage people, you gain ult charge, and it's dependent on how much you heal versus how much you damage. So it's mainly the numbers, and then you also gain your ultimate slowly over time. Now, certain characters do charge their ultimates faster than other characters. So Tracer charges hers one of the fastest in the game. Moira charges hers one of the fastest in the game, whereas a Lucio charges his one of the slowest in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how they they work out. Is some are faster, some are slower, and then you just get it from doing damage and healing and overtime.
Okay.
Now, abilities do contribute to that damage and healing, but they don't do any more than just regular damage.
Okay.
Man, this is gonna be really complicated in notes. I don't know. Nightmare to write all this out on my. Might just say like press F1.
Okay, I'm in a game.
Okay, I'm spectating you.
Welcome to Blizzard World.
ازيك؟
Well, hello. It's high noon somewhere in the world.
Oh.
Attackers incoming in 30 seconds.
Going free! Reinhardt, I must say you're looking quite well. This life must agree with you.
And you are looking as lovely as ever.
Taking off.
Yeah, you won't be able to sit on top of those, unfortunately.
Gotta make sense though, that would be.
4, 3, 2, 1. Attackers
So here, if we're just trying to get some easy damage in, right, we can just like fly straight up, right, for example, and then that'll just give us angles in which we can see people from the high ground.
Adapt to changing battlefield conditions. And good luck.
My barrier is destroyed. Members of...
There's no flank here, right? This is a choke.
Yep. I mean, they can go bottom right, is the only option they have. Echo's a very spammy character, so you're basically just gonna be holding down your stickies and your left clicks like very often. Just most of the time you're gonna be using those just to get damage out there.
No, no, no.
So right there, that's where you can beam her down, right? You can fly after her. Remember, you have a movement ability,
Oh, yeah.
right? So you can boost
Mobility
after her. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. You have when you use that boost, you have that initial burst that it does.
But beware. Repeated visits
Repair the damage.
I want this freaking tracer to just keep popping up.
No.
Yo. Crazy.
Now, I was looking back at the order, and I forgot that you ordered the same amount of play with me times as the coaching time. So my bad, I kind of like messed that. Like I just thought in my head there was a different order in that, but it's fine. I mean, those are interchangeable. You can basically do whichever one you want, and because it's basically the same price. So you can swap those in and out with whatever order you wanted on them.
Adaptive circuits engaged.
Oh, that was a panic.
Which is sometimes is going to be actually pretty good to save your life with it, but don't be afraid to use the ultimates because you get them at every couple of seconds. So
Engaged. Nerf this.
Step right up.
Reversing personality module.
yeah, but the bad thing about Echo is that you're going to need to learn all the other characters to know how to use her ult.
Yeah.
Very good beam usage. That's the type of thing you want to do. You can also cancel that, by the way. So you can click the button again, and you'd want to cancel that like if there's nobody else who's low health, right?
Boosting up.
Finishing them off.
Mecha activated.
Pardon me.
Surrender to my will.
Okay, make sure we're using our fly a little bit more often. Take to the
Yeah.
skies and use it to get away from danger. Don't walk through the open right there where you just kind of died, because first off, we didn't use our fly to escape, and then also we were just walking out in the open where we just took a bunch of spam damage, right? So cover
Yeah.
usage, right? Just making sure that we're not waltzing through where people can shoot at us super easily.
Roll it to me.
Probably just grabbed a health pack.
Oh, very nice shots. Make sure we're watching our health bar, requesting healing, or grabbing a health pack. Good job grabbing a health pack without knowing it.
From above.
Okay, so here on their team, Tracer and Pharah would probably be the best copy targets out of them, and then D.Va would be doable. Probably don't go for the supports though. Well, if we're about to die, don't be afraid to use copy, because that will put you back at full health when you're in the copy. So that is a very good way to survive and keep yourself alive. That way you don't just end up dying, right?
Back to combat mode.
Okay.
So you can kind of use it to panic, save your life. But preferably still look out for those good characters to swap to. So probably want to be looking for like Tracer or Pharah right about now. Oh, before we end up dying again, right? So
Yeah.
just remember, when we're dead, can't do anything. We lose, we put our team at a disadvantage. That's kind of our impact on losing fights and losing games, is deaths a lot of the times. So look to stay alive longer. That way we can do more things. Okay, now we lost 2 people, but we got 2 people, right, for watching kill feed, so we're kind of even still. Mercy's 1 HP, like we can boost at that, right?
Well, I couldn't tell what was going on there.
It'll be easier to tell what's going on, you know, the more you play. It's one of the biggest things of just getting better is just going to be playing more, right? When you're new, there's just a lot to learn.
Yeah.
So more playtime, the better. And again, this is now fight number like 3 that we haven't used our ult, so make sure we're using it here. Watch the pulse bomb, right? So that's just kind of awareness, right? There's a whole heck, like we're touching at the very, very bare minimums of the game right now. There's a whole heck of a lot of other things to go in here. That touches in on awareness of just paying attention to our environment and paying attention to, you know, what's happening around us, so we're not walking into a pulse bomb.
Adaptive circuits engaged. Farah.
Easy.
Oh, that was a waste.
Echo online.
Justice reigns from above.
There, if you're trying to get a bit closer, you can also fly up at her, right? Remember, a lot of times you can, when you're trying to kill somebody, you can boost up towards them to get closer, right?
No.
Especially if you see an easy opportunity, like she's standing still, or Mercy's rezzing, or Mercy's low, right? We can just boost at people with damage.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so not too bad in some areas, too bad in some others, right?
Yeah.
Alright, so other characters, or what you looking to do now?
I think I've learned a few, and to just not over kind of cloud my mind, I'll just, I guess for this session, just stick to what I've heard so far.
Alright, sounds good. So just hop in another game and we can just keep going through. So you're queued up for DPS yet?
I did flex, but I can
okay.
do DPS
Oh, you know,
again.
Oh, I was just wondering where you're going. So any particular characters that you're leaning towards at the moment, or any roles?
I like tank, obviously. I like Sig. I'd want to probably learn Reinhardt. Seems like a pretty important character to play in the higher elo.
Uh-huh.
definitely Lucio is someone I'm gonna want to learn. I can already tell I'm gonna really love that. Um, Echo's like a lot of fun, but like you said, my awareness has to get way better. Because you do have that low health, and I kind of threw the game like we were holding them pretty well at one point, and then I died like back to back to back to back to
Yeah.
back. So,
Traveling to Moskaya.
gonna try Hanzo.
Alright, sounds good. So Hanzo um has a sonic arrow which reveals the location of people. That one you're basically just gonna be using whenever, again off a cooldown, like a lot of abilities. Storm arrow is you're going to shoot a ton of arrows all at once.
Justice ain't
That's
gonna
going to be
dispense
useful when you're
itself.
burning down like a shield, or you're trying to, like, let's say you hit your first shot.
Mm-hmm.
You want to finish them off really fast. You can follow up with the storm arrow. Hanzo's primary fire, test it out a little bit. You have to charge it up, so hold it down. You probably aren't going to want to be tapping it too often. You're going to want to be holding that down until you kind of get it fully pulled back. I believe it shows you like your default crosshair should show you when it's fully pulled.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of shows when it is, so you'll be able to just see when it is. Charge it up. That'll do its max damage, and it'll be easiest to hit. It's a projectile, though it's pretty fast, so it's almost a hit scan. Your spacebar is, if you press double jump, you're going to leap in whatever direction you're aiming towards, and that will allow you to get somewhere faster. Here maybe might want to like
Lock on my target.
watch your health bar. Right now, our number one goal is getting healing, right? Is requesting it or finding a health pack. Yeah, he can also climb walls. If you just look at a wall and press spacebar, you can climb up.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Oh, excuse me.
Very nice. He does one shot as well. That's just your word. Make sure you're using your Sonic more often, right? That way, and same as we haven't used any of our abilities yet, really, right? Just all three of them we haven't touched on. So, you Sonic off a cooldown. That's just gonna reveal. You can see people through walls, right? So it's gonna be easy to know where people are and to be able to kill them easier. Storm Arrow for easy damage, and then Leap. Just try it now, right? Just double jump right now. Right, that's going to get you. That's a pretty low cooldown. You can use it whenever, just to dodge people out, to move faster while you're walking back from spawn. Or just to use it from however you want to use it, right? And then your dragon is going to travel in a straight line in front of you and do a whole bunch of damage to people who are standing in it. Though it is pretty slow, so people can move out of the way. Right now everyone's dead, so you probably want to be backing up and grouping up. You can probably just remember that point was lost, right? You had lost the checkpoint, so that was a lost fight, and then using an old lost fight is probably not what we're going to want to do, because you just kind of wasted it. Really far forwards right now, so we just want to be further back to where we're with our team.
Nano boost administered.
Feeling powerful.
Mobility increased.
Yeah, keep it up.
Cease your resistance.
See that which is unseen.
Yeah, really nice shots on those guys.
I'm on fire.
Okay, nice. We did pretty decent there. Okay, yeah. Right now we can just be going to go to the high ground, just spam them out as they're trying to run in. There, if you hit that first shot and you follow it up with the storm arrows, we don't have to charge back up the next shot, right? We can just immediately be shooting because you don't have to charge up the storm arrows.
Walk the dog.
Sonics, we know where people are. Just, you toss that into. You don't have to shoot it at people directly. You can shoot it just on walls if you want.
Does it go through walls?
Yep, or not through walls, but you can. But it's a big radius around where you put it. So you place it on a wall, and it's gonna go in a big circle around where your sonic arrow is.
Okay.
I will not be defeated so easily.
Okay, make sure you're using your ult here, right? Just we're not losing the game when we don't have it.
Adaptive circuits engaged.
Oh, she's going for me. Oh no, she went for Bastion.
Not good. Reversing personality model. Bringing them down.
Never surrender.
Oh.
Yep. Good job taking the high grounds. I like that we're kind of naturally going towards there. That's where you want to be going, so keep that up. Yep, just reposition to that forwards high ground. Good, good. First thing, we probably should be doing just Sonic real quick. That way we can see where people are. So just like the wall right next to us, right? Just for example. Just that's gonna show through the wall, right? Like you can see Orisa now. Watch the health bar, right? Just being aware of that. Because,
oh, I shouldn't have crossed over.
Yeah, so there we're just kind of sitting 40 HP. But
He was just shooting. What are your thoughts on Bastion? My friends told me pretty low pickings. Like, just, I don't know, like
low,
they'll pull out a surprise Bastion, but
say that again. People despise.
Like, yeah, like not despise, but they're like it's. First of all,
it's
super annoying.
It's an easy character that frustrates people. I'd probably say he's not very good at. He's never been good at high ranks. Like in the 5 years that the game's been out, but people just have a lot of trouble with him at lower ranks. So that's just kind of how it works. It's just a very easy character to get value out of, and people don't know how to deal with him. Okay, so how US Hanzo can kill him super easily. Well. How US Hanzo can kill him super easily is just to storm arrow him down because he can't move, right?
Oh.
So if you storm arrow him down and he can't move, then he can't run away from it. So it's just a really easy way that US Hanzo can burst him down.
Okay.
So anytime you see a Bastion is just in sentry, just storm arrow immediately. Or tank is another good good one where you can just like burst down a lot of their health.
Okay.
See that which is unseen.
Okay, there we left the high ground to just kind of leap out in the open. Probably just stay on the high ground would be a better idea.
Walk the dog.
Keep in mind that if you're missing, like, you don't have to hold down that storm arrow. You can just tap click them. So if you're missing the couple shots and you're not like on the target, you can hold on to them. That way you're not wasting them all immediately.
Okay.
Right? So there we actually did decently well. All right, I think that we did a little bit better than our Echo game. We weren't dying as much, and we were, I think, getting a little bit more kills just kind of using primary fire. I'm gonna talk about something real quick before you hop into your next game. So basically, this is going to apply to the reason why I haven't talked about it yet is because we haven't really gone over many characters that require a ton of intensive aiming, which is mainly because we haven't gone over many DPS characters yet. But this is what you call crosshair placement, which is maybe a term you've heard in Rainbow.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So this is just general game crosshair placement and how you want to look to implement that into your gameplay. First, very basic step on any character that can hit headshots, you want to make sure they're aiming at head level. Now, for example, like Sigma doesn't hit headshots, therefore you can just aim at the bodies, right? Because if you aim at the bodies, that's the biggest area to hit. But on characters that can hit headshots like Hanzo, you're doing a whole lot more damage if you're hitting headshots than body shots, right? Which means we want to hit those headshots. Therefore, we want to aim there, right? The further you have to adjust, like, oh, I actually hit that shot, but, the further we have to adjust, the harder the shot is to hit, right? It's much harder to hit these shots when we have to adjust super far, right? Whereas if we're just going side to side, this is a very easy shot to hit, right? Which means that we just want to be aiming there. So, like, we're just spamming down a corridor, just spamming into people, right? If we're aiming at body level, then we're just hitting body shots, right? Whereas if we're aiming at head level, now we're just hitting headshots, right? Whereas I was seeing a lot of downwards aiming and a lot of body shots being hit, right? Another part of this is to aim where we know people are going to be. So, person on the top right, we know he's on the top right, so we're going to pre-aim looking at head level here so that we can just very easily just headshot, and very, very easy. The other thing you can do is, like, you can Sonic Arrow to make it even easier, right? Because now you can see them coming through the wall, and we can just, boop, right? Very easy to do that. If we know he's on the left side, so we're pre-aiming left side, already looking head level, so we turn the corner, already looking at his head. Right? These guys are on a slope, so the same way we'd look down on a Torbjorn and up on a tank, we're going to look a little bit downwards on these guys, right? So when we turn the corner, we're hitting the headshot. Okay. Keep in mind that Hanzo does have a slight drop on his arrows, so that means that at a super long ranges, if we're aiming at his head level, then that will mean that we're actually hitting bodies. So what we want to do is just aim slightly above their heads. That way we're at... Oh, never mind. It looks like I'd aim slightly higher than that. So we have to aim slightly above their head like that. Still body shot. So slightly above their head. There we go. Right, just aim slightly above their head at a longer ranges, like to where it's like right here, so we're actually hitting headshots, right? And then that is pretty... I don't know if you wanted to queue up or if you wanted to go for another character or not.
Let me have a quick look over heroes. Doomfist.
Alright, Doomfist is... Alright, I can go over his abilities, but then there's also, like, kind of how to use them is a whole other, whole other thing. But, so, first off, punch, very basic, is you just punch somebody, you charge it up, it does more damage, and you go further, the harder you charge, or the more you charge it. But you have to keep in mind that you're going to be basically standing still while you're doing that, so you don't want to do it while people are in the middle of shooting you. This will one-shot squishy targets and do a whole bunch of damage to tanks. I don't know how much damage it actually does at max, but it does do enough to one-shot somebody, right? You also have a slam, which will do more damage if you are coming from like a high up place. So if you're doing that, you'll see you kind of have a number that'll charge underneath your crosshair, right? They also have an uppercut, which again will do damage and also bring people up in the air, where you can headshot them. Doomfist is a very combo-based character, right? So that's why you get a lot into how his combos work, and that's more into his ability usage. Like, for example, just a lot of it is rotation. So you're going to use one ability to go in, uppercut, and then one ability to get out. So you can punch in, right? Uppercut, slam back to your team, right? And then wait for those abilities to come back, and then do it again, right? Or you can slam in, uppercut, punch out, right? Now, when you're using your punch, you get like extra far with a super low. Basically, when you punch, right, you can add a jump at the very end and go an extra far. So this would be like let's go to the range marker, right? So full charge punch, right? This is how far we go, 20 meters, right? And let's go back here. All right, now full charge punch with a jump at the end. And 30 meters, right? So we're going to go...
Extra 10.
Yep, extra 10. So we go much further. So we can do just like a half charge punch and go pretty far, right? Or not half charge, like a quarter charge, right? So that's how we can, for example, slam in, right? So we can slam, shoot, uppercut, shoot, right? So slam, shoot, uppercut, shoot, punch out, right? Get back to our team.
Nice.
Just all the basic combos on him. the difference between his slam, you have a targeted slam and a non-targeted slam. The targeted
Okay.
slam is when you jump off of an object, right? So for example, you see that right where we can target
Yeah.
it. That's going to be faster but do less damage. Whereas if we don't do the targeted slam, we will do more damage. The max is 120, where you will do 120. Oh, sorry, wait, that went to 121. Did I get that wrong? What the heck? Which in any case, it does the most damage, right, if you're doing that, and it's untargeted, right? But if we're trying to go in fast, we can jump off of it and then target where we're trying to go, right?
Okay.
Ultimate. Oh, also on top of that, all of his abilities, whenever you land any ability, or also his ultimate as well, you will gain shield health. So kind of the same thing as Sigma's Grasp, right? So you look at your health bar, land an ability, land another ability, land another ability, health, right?
Wow.
So he gains health by doing that, but he is also very chunky, so he takes a lot of damage.
Okay.
Ultimate. Meteor Strike, you're going to go straight up in the air. You can change your perspective by clicking right click, and you can left click to slam down, right? And then that will do a bunch of damage in one place. The damage spreads out the further away they are, so you have to try to get that on top of them, right? As many people as possible. You can basically use it as a get out of jail free card, so you can get like super aggressive and then press that button, because you can't be damaged while you're in it, right? So kind of like the same thing as like Echo, for example, right? You can just use it to save your life. You can get like, we can use it to like reload. Basically think of it as like a dual mag effect. So we can go in super aggressive, use all of our abilities, right? Do stuff, boom, boom, and then ult, and then we can let our abilities recharge a little bit, slam in on somebody, and then now we have all our abilities back to use, right?
Okay.
So that's all the basics on Doomfist for the most part. He's a very complicated character, probably one of the most complicated in the game, with just the amount of techie things and buggy things and things that interact with his kits. But he's decently fun. That's just how he is. So anything else or another game, or we have like 7 minutes left here. So
who are your favorite heroes?
yeah, so I play really anything, but my favorite heroes are going to be the DPS category. So I play DPS, and I play a lot of different DPS. Probably say like Pharah is my favorite DPS. And then followed, that's hard. I enjoy playing Pharah, Junkrat, Hanzo. I've made a lot of the projectile characters: Hanzo, Genji, Mei. But I can play basically any DPS. The DPS then maybe don't play as much, or wouldn't care to play as much. Sombra it'd probably be more effective to go for that. With the ones I probably don't want to play much. Don't play not Doomfist very much, not Bastion, not Sombra, Symmetra, Torbjorn, not Widow, and then that's pretty much it. I'm down for like any other DPS.
Okay.
So yeah, and that comes from like, I can play anything. I would not recommend having that wide of a hero pool, because I can play basically anything, but that's because I have 4,000 hours in the game, and I swapped roles a bunch. So I played a lot and saw people playing a bunch. So even characters that I don't have a ton of time on, I still know how to play very effectively. So yep, anything else? So I think usually I do like a main points, like I go over like what are people struggling with, but I mean, you're so new that it's basically everything, right? So it's just like, I don't really have to give you that. It's just like, it's just a lot of information overload. And I do a quick review at the end, which again, I don't know if that'd be like too useful, because it's just like a bunch of it's just a bunch of everything, and I don't know if I guess just reviewing of the basics would be good, right? Crosshair placement, keep your, the stuff that applies to all characters, right? Use your ability, for the most part, use your abilities and ultimates often. Don't hold on to them, right? We hold on to our abilities and ults a lot. This is an ability and ult-based game. Those are very important parts of the game. Make sure you're not holding on to them. There are ones that you use more reactively, like shields and ult, and like to beat, but there are other ones that you're going to be using much more often. So just make sure that we're not holding on to them. Top of that, kill feed watching, so awareness, and make sure you're paying attention to kill feed, right? When we are up 1 to 2, advantage, down 1 2, disadvantage, aggressive or passive accordingly. Then up 2 to 3 or down 2 to 3 is a won or lost fight. No ults in a won or lost fight, and that way we're not wasting them. And then we want to make sure that we are going in more aggressively in a 1 fight, and then like to get going to stagger the enemy team. Whereas if we are down people and lost the fight, we want to get out if possible, and if we can't, let them kill you. That way you're not just staggering yourself, right? We don't want to be dying late and then just start it, wasting time or just causing a stagger train where our team just keeps going one by one by one by one. Okay. Now on top of that, pay attention to just where is my team, where is the enemy team. That's more awareness stuff, just so we're not going in without people. Don't walk in when you're down everyone, so you're not just walking into a lost fight. Make sure we're using our ults in any fight that's not been won or lost. Side, let's see. What else was there? Positioning. Good positioning is the usage of cover. Bad positioning is the absence of cover. That's general positioning. Take high ground as often as possible. And then, let's see, what else is there? I think that I'm trying to think of just, like, because there's a lot of just specific character things, but I'm trying to think of, like, the ones that apply to everybody. I think those are like the main core ones, I think. There are probably some others that I'm just forgetting at the moment. Those are the main ones, right? Do you have any other questions about anything in the game?
No, not right now, but I do appreciate your patience.
Yeah, you're good. So we do have 3 more minutes, my bad. So we can probably go over like one more character, or
Yeah,
like
sure.
at least a bit of one. So let me. Any other characters you are you interested in?
May.
All right. So May has a left click and a right click, right? So her left click is a freeze. This will freeze somebody and will not allow them to move until it runs out, right? You cannot continue. Basically, the freezing does not stack. So once they're frozen, this does nothing. I wasn't doing anything there until they get unfrozen. So what you want to do is you want to freeze someone and then follow. Oh, I didn't freeze them all the way. Whoops. So you want to freeze someone and then follow it up with a right click, and then that's going to be how you kill somebody very easily, right?
Okay.
Your right click is going. Your freeze does have a distance, so we're going to be using that within 10 meters on somebody. And whereas if we're outside of that distance, we're going to be using right click anytime we're outside of that range, right? It does not have fall off. You can do this damage the same from this range as well. Now her shift does healing over time on her, as well as replenishing a little bit of her ammo, and it makes her invulnerable. So while she takes damage, right, she can go into her shift and she will not take damage for the next 4 seconds. And then you can also cancel it to get out of it early. Her wall puts up a big wall. You can see where you're going to place it. You can change the direction of it by pressing it a second time. The biggest thing you're doing with this is you're splitting off the enemy team. So, for example, main thing is you try to get the tanks split up, right? This basically can get them killed super easily, let you go in and run at them and freeze them. You want to look to try to place this in between 2 walls if possible. So you see how we have 1 wall here, 1 wall there. So they cannot run anywhere to get around it. They'd have to break through it, which you can break through it from the enemy team. That's not always going to be the case, but whenever possible, you try to get at least 1 corner. So, like, for example, here it's too wide, but we can get 1, or like here it's too wide, but we try to get it in on this one over here. Whoops, I didn't mean to place that. But we can, place it on this wall, right? You can also cancel your wall if you would desire. And then you can also use it to block things like ultimates and when you're low HP or whatnot. Okay, your ultimate is a big snow globe of freezing. It's a big circle, right? So you throw it in on people. You're going to want to wall people off so they can't escape. Toss it in there, and then you can freeze people extra fast by using your left click. Then once they're frozen, we can shoot them, right? The freezing does stack to a faster freeze if you're using both your left click and your freeze at the same time. And then that is pretty much it on May.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, and then, yeah, I think that's it. So, let me stop the recording there. So.